Hey, you sexy beasts. This is Arielle DeVito from Be More Than Fit Personal Training, bringing you your weekly health and fitness lifestyle hack. Sometimes we need to be reminded of why we should make our health and fitness a priority, and I make it my personal goal to be that person for you. This week, we're talking about self-love. And let's be honest, love can be complicated, but it's so much easier to love someone when we know what they need, when we know what they enjoy, when we know how to provide and show that love for someone else. And it's no different when it comes to us. This week, your lifestyle hack is to dig into either Pinterest or maybe a journal and find some writing prompts that ask you self-discovery questions. Take some time to get to know what you need for this season of your life, and then it becomes so much easier to provide that self-love for you and start caring for yourself again because you'll have a better idea of what you need to provide. For more tips or to speak with a trainer, find us on our website at www.bemorthanfit.com or our Facebook page. This is Arielle reminding you that you deserve the best quality of life available, and it's yours for the taking.
Welcome everybody to this week's episode of the Melissa Killeleagh Show. I have a beautiful guest back with us, Arielle DeVito from Be More Than Fit Personal Training Studio. And before we jump into the episode and the things we're going to talk about, it's just in time for Valentine's Day, right? There's a couple of things that are on my mind. One is, if you know someone that you would love to have featured because you like the idea of getting more of this like beautiful news and positive news out into the world so that we can kind of offset a little bit of the doom and gloom we can tune into any day, just reach out and let me know. You can find me on Facebook. I'm the only Melissa Killeleagh. You could go to the Melissa Killeleagh Show Facebook page and send me a private message. But I am definitely looking to showcase more of these people throughout the Finger Lakes region and really throughout the world. If you've been watching my show, you know that over the years, I've definitely had people from out of the area, because with our ability to access people everywhere, the world becomes a smaller place. And it takes me back to that whole like, think globally, act locally. Well, what does local even mean to us anymore, right? Because when I was in Seneca Falls, I kept thinking just Seneca Falls, but then branched out to the Finger Lakes region, and then branched out to Western New York and Central New York. And then all of a sudden I had people on from Estonia and all over the place. So think about that and send me a message if anything comes to mind. But over the coming months, we'll be bringing a lot of amazing guests to you. And Arielle is one of our informal but amazing sponsors of the show. She's been bringing us our weekly life hacks now since the beginning of the year. And Arielle, I'm just grateful to have you here because we're going to talk about those 3 words that change our lives in light of Valentine's Day showing up. So Arielle, what is on your mind today? I know you were really pumped up, fired up from church this morning, and you're on this topic thinking about self-love. So tell me what's on your mind.
Well, thank you. I have so much on my mind. Thank you. I'm very grateful that you've invited me to do this again because I love talking with you. Just because, I feel like it's this inner dialogue that so many of us have that we don't get opportunities to share with the right people. And so I love that I get to share this inner dialogue with you. I have a husband, and anybody who has a spouse or who's had a significant other knows that it's just not the same. You can talk to them about anything that's on your heart and on your mind, and they are definitely there for a specific purpose. But when you get to have these heart-to-hearts with other people who just get it, it feels so good. So, where to start? I have so many, so self-love for me is kind of, and actually, I said this in our lifestyle hack this week, that love's complicated. That's putting it lightly. It's definitely complicated. And this idea of self-love has always been taboo for me because I was brought up to be humble. So, you know, love yourself, but don't love yourself too much. Right? Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, where is that fine line? So like, I hope that, you know, I just think about like all of, even with clothing and things, you know what I mean? Like, put yourself out there, but be modest, you know, and there's like this balancing act of loving yourself, but putting others before yourself as well. And I think that that's really where we get caught up. So that's kind of like, I could elaborate on all of this all day, but you know, what I'm interested in from your perspective is like, what do you think about that?
I love that because so I was brought up Catholic, right? And, you know, and it was very similar, right? There was always this juggling act and this balancing act of like exactly what you said, you know, love yourself, but not too much. Put yourself out there, but not too much, right? Like, don't be too much. And over the years, what I've come to realize is that in order to be the other part of that equation, right? In order to be the humble servant, in order to be, you know, the person who puts themselves out there, to be the humble servant, you have to deeply love yourself, right? It's, you know, there's so many different ways that I could take this, but one of the biggest ones is an analogy I learned several years ago. I think it was Rachel Hollis when she made her movie, Made for More. And she talked about how, you know, we are like, and I'm sure I've shared this with you before, but I love this analogy and people can't hear it enough, that we are like pitchers. We treat ourselves like pitchers, constantly pouring ourselves out into our families, our friends, our communities, our work. And at the end of the day, then the pitcher's empty. And it takes a lot of time to fill that pitcher back up, right? But we can't pour from an empty pitcher. If instead we can be the vase that stands there humbly, right, pouring into ourselves, so that at the end of the day, we have no option but to overflow into everything and everyone around us, then aren't we serving everybody better, right? Aren't we able to serve our families, our friends, our work, our communities better when we're starting from that place of abundance? So that's what comes up for me. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I'd love to know
and you know,
on that.
Well, and what's funny about this is, you know, really like where my heart is on this topic right now is that so often, you know, especially as a mom, so often we get used to sacrificing and being there for others and doing the things that we need to do. And we put, you know, we take on the responsibility onto our shoulders and we do the thing. We do it for so long that we forget and we lose touch with what we actually need. And so we start trying to fill our vase or fill our cups with all of the wrong things because we think, oh, if, you know, such and such makes her happy, maybe I should do that. Or if such and such is working for her, maybe I should try that. And we keep filling ourselves with things that leave us still feeling empty because it's not our thing. We're not taking the time anymore to get to know. So, you know, self-love, like when you think about love and you think about how you love other people, there's love languages. Are you familiar with the 5 love languages?
Yes, book's right over there.
So yeah, if you know what someone's love language is, then the picture becomes more clear of what you need to provide for that person. So you need to know what your love languages are and not expect other people to give that to you, but to do it for yourself.
So powerful. So powerful. And that's where I think we can often struggle with holidays like Valentine's Day, right? Because there are a lot of people out there, and I was one of them, who expected this other person to fill that emptiness or to figure out how to make me happy, right? When in reality, that's my job. Happiness, love, all of it, that's an inside job. And we've got to start with ourselves first before we can even make that possible. But I love the way that you bring love languages into this, because I know a lot of people who use love languages to talk about things like marital counseling or divorce mediation and, all of this stuff where the focus is on the other. But at what point are we actually looking at what our love languages are, and not only for the purpose of sharing them with a significant other, but for ourselves, right? To really go to that level of deep self-reflection and say, like, what do I need, right? Like, what if touch is my number one love language and I don't have a partner? Well, maybe I need to go for a massage, right? Maybe I need to ask a friend for a hug, right? Maybe I can fill that need in some other way and get creative in doing it so that it's not always the pressure of the other to do that for us. Yeah. Is that where you were going with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And, like I say, just really taking the time to figure that out, and a lot of times, like especially when it comes to like weight loss and fitness and, the people that I've coached and helped through the years, you think about, I always hear this, well, I used to run back in high school, or I used to play volleyball, or we played soccer. Like, you go back to this, what you did in college or what you did in your, previous years. And that is a small indication. And, again, this whole idea of being consumed by our current circumstances, it's taking a step back from that and saying, who am I? What do I need? Taking a look back at what has served us well in the past and using that as a small indication of what we need to come back to if we enjoyed it, if it fulfilled us, if it made us happy. And those are the things that fill our cups, because a lot of times we think that like we need to do the thing that someone else is doing because it makes them happy and it looks like it's happy and it looks like it's fun. And you need more of that in your life, but you're going about it the wrong way. And I think that that's really where we get stuck, in a lack of self-love, because we're looking at everybody else instead of saying like, hey, you know what, if I was going to date myself, what would I do? If I was going to take myself out for coffee, what would the conversation look like? And take the opportunity. I mean, I know that journaling can be funky for people, but like maybe you need to do something different, like actually taking a pen and paper and writing yourself a letter of all of the things you wish you were doing right now, and using those as indications, to show you these little glimpses of, hey, come back to who you really are, do what fits in that, so that way you are filling your cup, not based on anybody else's expectations, but on the things that genuinely fulfill you.
Yeah, I love that. And you would really appreciate this. So I bought myself the most beautiful Valentine's Day card. And my journaling this morning was writing a letter to myself and asking some of those questions, right? And thinking about some of these things. Now, the one thing that I think is so interesting is, in the last couple of years, you've really introduced this seasonal aspect to Be More Than Fit, right? So when you're looking at people's health and fitness, really looking at what does this season of life call for? And as I move forward in my own health and wellness training and endeavors, I'm really pulling in this idea of the ebb and flow of the day and of the seasons and throughout the years. And what I find so interesting is the next question, after all of the ones you've already asked, who am I? What do I want? What do I value? What do I need? Right? Or what they're going back to, like, oh, I ran in high school, I loved to run, and I need to go back to that, right? But then the question is, does that serve me in this season of my life, right? So for example, last year, I do love to run, but last year, beginning a journey in running did not serve me. It actually reinforced the idea of isolation that I was going through, which was interesting. I didn't expect that, right? I expected to feel that freedom of like just getting out there and, feeling my body working in that way. And it was very isolating, because it was taking me back to that place of like, when I was in high school, I ran competitively And so, that's not a team place. You might be on a team, but when you're out on the cross country course or you're running track, like, it's all about what you're doing and you are in here. So instead, I moved into focusing on my world of yoga and my Sangha and community, and doing a lot with them as much as I possibly could, so that I felt that level of community and connectivity. And I still got my workout in, right? So that question to me is really important also. Like, does this serve me in this season of my life, right? That's really important. Do you see people, resisting the idea of this seasonality, if you will, of life when you start to work with them in this way? Because I know you moved into, like, summer is the season where you're out there and you're really working and you're doing it. And, then you move into like fall and winter, and it's really more about maintenance and, taking care of yourself. So I'd love to hear your perspective on that from the health and fitness realm of things.
Yeah. So one of the things that I love about breaking down a year of fitness goals, if you will, or health goals, is that you can organize these pillars in whatever season of life you're in, right? So like what we've noticed is in the Finger Lakes, winter time, the first quarter of the year, everybody wants to start, taking care of themselves better, right? You've got resolutions if you're a resolution person, you've got, self-love and Valentine's Day and all this stuff. Like, it's very much so on your radar to take care of yourself. And second quarter, people want to lose weight, so it's easier to focus on nutrition. Summertime, you're out and about, you can maintain well and easily. And then in the winter time, you're talking end of the year where the holidays hit, is stress management. Mm-hmm. I give you that context to remind you that just because the seasons change doesn't mean that the season of your life that you're in matches that idea, right? So like maybe right now, while other people are working out and killing it, wherever their gym might be right now, maybe you just really need to hunker down and do some stress management. Maybe you just need to focus on your nutrition. You can put this stuff in whatever order you want. And what I think, to your point of going out for a run and coming back to the thing that used to fulfill you. How do I want to put this? I have become very familiar with failure. And I think that it's one of the reasons that I find that it's easy to help people in a non-judgmental, way of approaching health and fitness goals, because you may go out for a run and it feels horrible. And you're like, this is not what I thought. We romanticize, right? We go, oh man, it'll be so nice to go to do such and such. And we go do it and you feel like a hot mess and you're like, maybe this isn't for me anymore.
Yeah.
So the thing is, we all want instant gratification. We all want those instant results. We want it to feel the way it used to feel. Fact of the matter is maybe you do want to get back to running, and that fulfilling you is an indication of a goal that's later on down the road. Mm-hmm. And you're putting that season too soon. Mm-hmm. And that's, when we talk about, how we see it play out, we all think that we know what we want, but we forget that what we need may come before what we want.
Yes. Yes.
And so it's getting in touch with saying, I want to lift, like I want to go crank out some weights, and I want to, like, I used to love CrossFit, and this is just an example, but because I don't do CrossFit, maybe one day I will, but just the idea of like, and I was so strong, knowing that you can't go pick up a barbell before you start picking up those 5-pound dumbbells. Right. You know what you want, but what you actually need
is to go
is something that's much smaller. Exactly. And so like, you have to allow yourself permission to fumble and fail through the things you thought were supposed to be, in order to be directed and guided to what you actually need to start with. Because really what this is those failures and roadblocks are pointing you to the underlying issue of what you need to tackle first before you can get to that, what I want. And that's frustrating. It really is. It can be frustrating. And I think that that's what takes people, off the rails so quickly,
Yeah, I agree with you. And, I was talking to Diamanda Stratakos last week from Go Live Spartan, and we were talking about meditation. And I truly believe that that's like the missing link to a lot of this, because if you don't slow down long enough to do that self-reflection, to tap in, to tune in, you're constantly hitting your head against the wall, right? Because you're going to be, and I'm not saying don't try it, don't fail, right? Like there is something to be learned there. I love the way that you talk about failure. But there's also an element of like, if you actually slow down for 3 seconds and breathe and tap in, the answers come a lot more readily than we expect them to. Like, oh no, my body does not want to do that today. What could I do that would take me down that path? Right? So, to your example, I'm going to go in the kitchen. I'm going to grab the heaviest cans that are in the kitchen, and I'm going to, do some reps with them. And it might feel silly or seem silly, but the reality is that's what's going to take you down that path if that's what you're really looking for. But on the other side, you might actually tap in and go like, what I really need right now is a nap, right? Because I do not know very many people in upstate New York or this region, this time of year, who are not sleep deficit, right? I mean, in general, in our culture, but certainly in the midst of winter when we're experiencing a lot of imbalance with circadian rhythms and everything else. And so that nap might actually be more restorative and do more for your body in a beneficial way than actually doing the workout at that point, right? And so it's tapping in to discern between excuses and reality as well, right? Because you could make up the excuse like, I'm tired, when in fact you actually do need to like get some energy moving in your body. And that just takes the ability to know yourself, to tap in, to really listen to what your body, your mind, your soul is asking for. Yeah.
Yep. I love that you said tune in, because what popped into my head initially was a radio station. And then after that was Netflix. And I was like, this is such a good example, because people don't want, like, I know so many people that don't want to meditate. Like, they don't even want to talk to you about meditating because it's like, it's weird. Like, I don't know if you know, but like, I'm a little bit of a high energy person, right? Like
Never
it's just,
shocker.
it is so hard to sit still and meditate. But like anything, it's a practice. And I'm not saying like it's easy, but what helps me understand the value of meditation is having the ability to take a minute to observe what you're hearing on the radio station and deciding whether or not you want to change the channel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's this whole, and I mean, like Netflix popped into my head because I was thinking, if you start watching a show or something that, people are talking about, like it's noise, right? Like all of this noise around something, you start engaging into the noise, and then you have to decide, you have to have the wherewithal or the quiet and stillness to decide, am I going to watch this show for 10 minutes and go move on to something different because it's not serving me? Mm. Or am I going to sit here mindlessly and just watch it even though I know like I'm not into this?
Yeah.
And I think that, that's the value of meditation, is being able to give yourself the permission to change the channel, right? If you never take the time to tune in, to observe what you're actually listening to, because, a lot of us are inside our heads a lot, and is what you're hearing and what you're consuming, what you're viewing, what you're internalizing, serving you in your goals? Maybe you just need to shut everything down and, like you say, go take a nap. I can't tell you how many times I've fallen asleep during meditation lately. And I'm like, it's all good. It still counts.
It counts. It totally counts. And I love that you bring this up, because this ties into those 3 words, right? Those 3 words that change our lives. And it's not, I love you. So when you don't take the time to tune in, right? And by the way, meditation does not require you to sit still and be quiet, but we're going to have a whole other conversation about that coming up really soon, because that is the type of meditation that I'm working on right now in meditation teacher training, right? Is this instinctive meditation, which sometimes involves movement, sometimes might even involve your workouts. You know, there's 100 million things it could involve. So anyways, I digress. My point is, if you don't take the time, it's very easy, and I saw this a lot throughout 2020, to believe that because you're in there all the time, that this is the way life is. And so then when you go scroll Facebook and you see all this negativity, you've got negativity in here, you see all this negativity, you're tuning into the things that are already in here, right? And then you think like, oh my gosh, the world is just this way, when in reality, if you just take the time to tune in, you know that everything is a choice. That station that you've got playing is a choice. That news, or whatever you want to call it, that you're consuming is a choice, right? So last year I was doing a lot of work with people around things like, hey, did you know on Facebook, you can actually unfriend people, you can unfollow them, you can snooze them. Curate your feed, people, because that's what's going in here. And if you train this to a different channel, right, you change the station, you're going to start looking for different things to feed it. And this is what it relates to me. We are sold this belief that I am this way, right? And the world is this way, when the world is whatever you want it to be, because you can find proof of anything, right? And so these are the three words: I get to, right? My life changed the moment I stopped saying things like, I have to do this, I have to get up and do that, I have to work out. Well, if we could change working out and fitness, for example, to be not only I get to, but a radical act of self-love, isn't that different than, you know, that feeling you have when you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, I gotta put my sneakers on and go for a run, right? It's like, no, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna love that out of myself right now. And I get to do this, right? So how do you feel about that, Arielle? Because I know, like, when we started connecting and working together, whenever it was, like 5 years ago at the gym, I think we talked about this back then, like that shift of I get to is so freaking powerful. It can change your life in a moment's notice.
Yeah. Well, and you know, like, as you're saying the word love, I work with teenagers. So I think about how, like, that word can be traumatic, right? There are a lot of people with a lot of broken hearts and bad pasts. And if you don't want to love yourself in the aspect that we're talking about, you need to take care of yourself. Like, do whatever you need, whatever verbiage is going to work to get you to the place that you feel like you can show up in your life in a better way. Right. So, and that's why, you know, in the beginning, I was just thinking about how, like I had said, that love is complicated.
Yes.
Until your heart and you feel like you can love anybody. I mean, loving ourselves is so hard. But sometimes the challenge is to love our circumstances, or to love our situation, or our people, or whatever. And if that's a hard word for you, even just getting back to understanding that you can call it what you want. At the end of the day, we have a responsibility, right? Like, this all comes down to, we've been provided with our bodies. So I was actually having a conversation yesterday, and we were talking about how there's a difference between accepting ourselves and settling. And I think having that honest conversation of, I love myself, you know, obviously we all have things we could improve, right? I love myself, or I accept myself, or I care for myself, whatever verbiage serves you right now enough to motivate you to make a change, to improve something. But I'm no longer going to settle for treating myself this way. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to come to a place of saying, like, I hate myself, or like, I can't stand myself, I'm disgusting, blah, I need to do something. Like, the whole idea is, we can only live this way until we can no longer live.
I think we may have lost Arielle.
With a plan of action, really, you know.
We lost you there for a second.
Oh no!
I think you got so passionate, you just blew up the internet, right? Because you said, we can only live this way until we can no longer live. And then I lost you. So
yeah, we can only live this way until we can no longer stand to live this way.
Right.
Right. And so it's not necessarily getting to a place of, you know, self-hate or loathing or anything else, but more so just saying, like, what's out of whack?
Mm-hmm.
Where am I missing the, you know, the small glimpses or the things? And, you know, I have like so many thoughts right now. Where am I missing the mark? You know, having that difference between self-acceptance and settling. When do I choose that I can no longer settle to treat myself this way?
Mm-hmm.
And I love that you said the word belief, because church this morning said they were talking about, they give this visual example of Legos, and I can totally.
Oh, we lost you again. All right, you guys. Well, while we wait for Arielle to come back, I just want to share this with you. So,
like,
there she is.
Oh,
all right, so we got Legos.
Yes. Okay. So basically, your belief system is your blueprint. Think about a box of Legos, right? You get you get the instruction manual. You've got your pieces. And so often what we're trying to do is build the picture on somebody else's box with the pieces that we have.
Yes. I love that.
So, you know, to your point of you get to do what's been placed right now in front of you with what you currently have.
Yes.
And you have a blueprint. You need to decide where that blueprint, like what those belief systems, where they came from, and if you're trying to use the wrong blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about those seasons of life and everything, like you have everything that you need to not only love yourself, but to also love others, and to also show up for yourself in a way that maybe you've just missed for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's never been unavailable, right?
Right. Yeah. So what's so perfect about this, Arielle, is in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be doing a couple different workshops around the idea that changing that blueprint, changing that belief system is not always, 3 years in talk therapy, right?
Right.
So often these beliefs that we have can be changed and altered radically through simple shifts and through simple habits and daily disciplines. Because, something, for example, like I'm not enough, that comes up in a lot of my red light stories. I'm not a good enough mother. I'm not a good enough this, that, whatever. And the more I show up for myself, that story begins to erode and show up in my life less and less, right? Because it's taking the action that affirms the belief system, the blueprint that I do want in place, that makes the difference. So, but I think we're running out of time. So I want to say a few more things to our listeners and our viewers. Thank you so much for tuning in as we navigate a new season with the Melissa Killeleagh Show and having this amazing support from Arielle DeVito from Be More Than Fit Personal Training Studio with our weekly life hacks. I absolutely love them. I'm grateful for them. I look forward to them every week. And thank you for being part of the show as we've journeyed over the last few years, taking these twists and turns from being a space to bring more positive news to the world, to really showcasing people who are living life with passion and purpose and who are into this values-driven living that we continue to talk about. So, Arielle, thank you for being part of today's conversation and the ongoing success of our message. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you letting me come on and chat with you about this stuff. I really, I just hope and pray it makes a difference. And even if it's just one person's life, it's worth it.
Right. If we reached one person, then we did our job for today. So you guys, if you like the show, go to Facebook, like the page, go find Arielle. Where can they find you again?
So Be More Than Fit Personal Training Studio on Facebook, and our website is the same, bemorethanfit.com, and me on Facebook, Awesome. I have a personal page. It's Arielle DeVito.
I love it. And if you guys come find me on my personal page, you'll get to tune in to when these workshops are coming up in the next few weeks. So if you've got some blueprints that maybe are outdated or you've been using somebody else's, join us, because it's a great place to start to rethink these things as we move into the part of this season of the year where we start to come out of our shells and be more present in the world, right? We're not quite there yet, but we're getting there. So starting to look at these things is powerful. So thank you again, everyone, for watching and tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Arielle. Bye.